Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Cartier, insert your favorite European fashion brand here. When it comes to the world of portable audio, Meze Audio is where it's at. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews, and today we're looking at another magical, beautiful piece of craftsmanship from Meze Audio. Today it is the Meze Rai Solo. This is a single dynamic driver IEM. The MSRP, or the retail price, is $249, and we're just going to jump straight into it today. If you want to read about all the specifications and the the tech of the special driver they've got inside, follow the links in the description. You can go to their website and read up on that. I'm all about the actual earphones themselves, the end user experience, so we're going to talk about that right now. Before we get onto the earpieces though, I just want to say, have a look at that. Isn't that beautiful? This is actually the exact same case that comes with the Meze flagship, the Rai Penta. And it is a absolutely fucking beautiful case. You get a nice selection of various ear tips, some double flange tips and single flange silicone ear tips. Beautiful case. Looks like, you'd expect to find that in the front seat or the passenger seat of a Ferrari or an Audi or something like that. So I'm going to put that right there. And now we're going to have a quick look at these earphones. Let's take a closer look now. So if you are familiar with the Rai Penta, you will immediately recognize the shape and understand that the Rai Solo has a very similar shell, albeit without the powder coating finish. This is just a raw stainless steel type of finish, brushed metal, and it really looks fantastic. Sort of industrial but modern, very stylish, very much like a piece of jewelry. You got the Meze Audio logo on the faceplate there. All the contours in the right places. I got to tell you, these are so fucking comfortable. They are just unbelievably comfortable. And on top of that, they are just a work of art. I mean, gosh, they're beautiful. Elegance in their simplicity and fine craftsmanship. They are just gorgeous. Meze is still sticking with the MMCX connectors here. One of the things that I really love about Meze Audio products is their attention to detail, the fine details in the design. And I'll show you a couple right now. First of all, the nozzles are color coded. Now, most of the time you will not notice that because you've got ear tips on there. These are great tips, by the way. They fit my ears beautifully. So, color-coded nozzles, which match with the color-coded MMC connectors on the cable here. And while we're talking about the cable, yeah, it's okay. It's a little bit thin above the Y split, but it's pretty standard Meze Audio. It's silver-plated copper. Very nice quality, but the handling could be better. These actually have memory wire, which feels like a bit of a kickback to years ago when everyone, including like budget brands like KZ, everyone was using memory wire. And at first I was like, come on guys, seriously? But I tell you what, these provide one of the stablest fits, in conjunction with the incredibly ergonomic shell design. The memory wire on the cable makes this one of the stablest fitting IEMs I've ever used. And just unbelievable. The level of comfort and fit on these is outstanding. So back to this cable now. Got a standard Y split, a little chin slider there, transparent plastic one, and it's a sort of a twisted style cable, by the way, 4 cores. This is just a little something. You get the Meze logo on the plug here, on the termination. You probably won't see it in the video, but there are a couple of little ridges, one on either side, which you won't even notice most of the time until you go to pull the cable out of whatever source you are plugged into, like the Shanley M5S here. You wouldn't even notice it's there, but it's just these tiny little touches like that that make the overall experience of using Meze Audio products just stand out above all the rest. So look, I don't want to talk too much about all that. You know I love the style. Nice, although I prefer generally 2-pin connectors. In terms of MMCX connectors, these ones are excellent. They've got a nice, clean, tactile click. They don't feel mushy. They don't feel fragile. So that's another thing that Meze Audio has nailed to perfection here. But enough with the physicalities of the shells. I want to talk about the sound now. Alright, so how do the Rai Solo sound? Well, as you can expect, they sound pretty darn good. But whether this is the type of sound that you like or not will come down to personal preference. These have a very audiophile type tuning, or a more mature type tuning, and excuse my phone, but what that means is that there's less quantity of bass. You have a very clean sound, a very uncolored and fairly neutral mid-range, and a sort of a crisp light treble, but not too forward, also neutral, much like the mid-range. I would call the sound signature very slightly V-shaped, but closer to neutral. So, starting off with the bass, these have a nice punchy mid-bass. It is quite fast, it's fairly fast, it's an agile bass. There's a very clean leading edges on bass notes. And yeah, a nice amount of punch, a nice amount of impact. In terms of sub bass, they do have a lighter amount of sub bass. So if you're a bass head, these will not be your cup of tea. If you're looking for those big bass drops, you won't find them here. But if you like absolute control, the bass extension is there, but the sub bass notes are very light and very tidy, very tight in character. So while not a bassy IEM, they do have that extension there. But like I say, the mid bass is fast, it's nimble and agile and very clean and tidy, which is part of what makes the mid-range so fantastic, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So these have very clean mids. The amount of detail that you hear in the mid-range here is very impressive, especially for a single driver IEM, and one with a touch of warmth to its presentation, to its sound signature. But the mid-range is fairly neutral. What it does, it brings vocals slightly forward. Things like acoustic guitars, it's very difficult to find better sounding acoustic guitars in this price range. The Rai Solo really excel at that, and vocals do sound fabulous. They're not the richest or fullest. You won't find that sort of chestiness in the vocals, but they are very articulate and very detailed and textured, and they sound natural as well. But the overall presentation is a little bit laid back. It's kind of an airy sound. It's not up front, it's not full bodied or forward in its presentation. It's sort of pushed back a little bit. But the mids are pretty fantastic, especially if you're looking for something neutral and uncolored, then you will absolutely love these. So let's move on to the treble now, and the treble on these is light and airy. It's not a really forward treble, it's slightly laid back, and it's characterized by a couple of peaks mixed in with a couple of fairly significant dips in there as well. What that does, well, these are very deftly avoid any sibilance or harshness in the treble. It's a very smooth treble, and it does produce a good amount of detail and micro detail. It's not the most even treble though. Those dips every now and then, certain instruments might sort of stand out a bit above others, or some instruments might sound a little bit more subdued or muted compared to others because of those dips in the treble there. But overall, it's a nice relaxed treble, yet still has some energy and air in there, and provides excellent amount of detail. The clarity, the overall clarity of the Rai Solo is fantastic. The soundstage is fairly large, fairly expansive, a lot of clean air between instruments, but it's not a full-bodied or a thick sound. It's a little bit thin sounding, a little bit on the thinner side of neutral, I would say, although there is some warmth that carries over from the mid bass. But overall, it's a very refined sound. I think any audiophile or enthusiast would be absolutely delighted with the sound that these produce. But like I said earlier, if you're a bass head, or if you want sort of a really lively, full-bodied sound, then these might not be for you. But otherwise, these are really fantastic, especially for certain genres of music like classical music, acoustic guitars, vocal music, things like that. They do work well across just about any genre, but they excel at those genres. And at the same time, for maybe hip hop, dubstep, some EDM, if you're looking for those big, low, impactful bass notes, they're not the greatest for that. So not the ultimate all-rounder, but certainly a very impressive in-ear monitor. Let's do a couple of real quick comparisons now, starting off with the Dunu DK2001, which is still my current champ in this sort of price range. The Dunu has more bass, especially more sub-bass presence. It also has more bass texture and body, and that body carries over into the mid-range. It's got more note density, it's got a fuller, more forward mid-range, and a livelier treble. It's a very dynamic sound that these have. Listening to these side by side, the Meze kind of sounds a little bit more refined, a bit more mature, while these are sort of a bit of more, how to say, party-like, a bit more energetic overall. So it would be hard for me to say which one is better, but like always, it will come down to personal preference. I personally still prefer the sound of the DK2001, but at the same time, I can absolutely 100% appreciate the Rai Solo. So now moving on to another one of my favorites in this price range, which is the Shanling ME500 Platinum Edition. And just like the Dunu, the ME500 has more bass presence. It's a more dynamic and sort of a robust, full-bodied sound. It has more sub-bass presence, more mid-bass punch. It has fuller mid-range and forward vocals and instrument presentation. And at the same time, it is also a little bit more energetic in the treble to counterbalance that warmer low end. But this ME500 is an extremely detailed sounding IEM, especially for one that's so dynamic and warm, which is one of the reasons I really love this. I would say the detail retrieval on these two models is actually quite similar, although with the ME500 you're getting that additional warmth. But again, for someone looking for that more mature, refined sound, the Rai Solo would be the one. If you're looking for a more bouncy, something with a bit more low-end punch and presence, then the ME500 PE might suit you better. But to sum up the Meze Audio Rai Solo, I really like these. I think they are pretty darn good sounding for the price. In terms of physical build, they are unrivaled at this price range. Look, the ME500 PE is a beautiful IEM, but it is not anywhere near as comfortable as these. And the ergonomics, Meze Audio just absolutely nailed the ergonomics on these. Actually, during the Black Friday sale, there was a $100 discount on these, making them what, $169, I think. If you snatched a pair up during that sale, you got a great deal. I think that is really competitive. At their regular MSRP, there's a lot more competition, but I still think they are a good value and definitely worth that MSRP. And overall, I think the Rai Solo is a fantastic earphone. So I think I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. If you liked the video, give it a like, Parfam audiophile style. And of course, if you want to see more reviews like this in the future, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, I'll see you later.